Here we go. Julius Caesar, chapter 48. Accidit. It happened, etiam even, or also, repetendum incommodium. It's accusative, bidweo. Okay. So it happened, a sudden inconvenience, even 2 days, quo, from which, haec gestasunt, from which these things happen. So it happened 2 days later, a sudden inconvenience. Tant enim tempestus coorita. 4. Tanta tempest, such storms, coorita, arose, co usually means together, I suppose, such a storm arose, but that numquam never, illis locus, to or from these places, maiores aquas, more water, fuisi constaret. Constaret, impersonal means it was agreed. So it was agreed that such storms arose which never had more water in these places. So it was flooding. Tum, then, autumn, however, moreover. So then, ex omnibus mountains, ex is from, so from all the mountains, omnibus mountains, neves proluided, snow washed down, and summus rippus, the top of the river banks, superavit means overflowed, so the fluminous, over in the river on both banks, and ambo means both, pontes, both bridges. So you have 2 banks of a river and you have 2 bridges as well, not together, the different places in the river. Cause which, see Fabius, a person had fecerated, had made, and it rupited, it burst. Inter means amongst, uno die means 1 day. So, from snow washed down from all the mountains and overflow both banks of the river, both the bridges, which Fabius had done, and all this happened in uno die, 1 day. Quae res, which matter or circumstances, magnus difficulties, great difficulties, were attulated, or born to, dative of the 4th declension, to the army, genitive of Caesar. Castra anim, for the camp, the castra, as demonstrated above, as super demonstratum est, when ascent, when this camp, the castra, was inter flumina duo, between 2 rivers, as pointed out above, the Sicorum and the Scingam. In English, there's no M there, you can just take it as the nominative. Aspatio millium 3, for a space of 30 miles, neutrum horum, neither of these, horum's a pronoun, were potrat transiri, were able to be crossed, transiried. Necessariero is an adverb, and unavoidably, omnes, continabatur, they were all contained, his Angustus, in these narrows, in this narrow area. Neque civitates. Civitates can be the state or the city or the community, the people in that group. And anyway, there was a necessario, the adverb is the daily dictionary, unavoidably, necessarily, unavoidably, without option, inevitably. Okay, so neither could these peoples, a community, which ad Caesaris, to ad takes the accusative, to the friendship of Caesar, which had approached Acesra, which had come to Caesar, there's the ad meaning going to him, to be friends with him, these people, to support him with frumentum, which is grains, and nequia, neither could they, they's the EI, qui who had progressed rather long away, far away, the verbs progressi, the supine forgetting pabulum, which is foraging. They, plural, were interclusi, shut off, reverti, reverting, coming back, by the fluminibusses, by the rivers. Verti is one of those only words, basically, where it's passive infinitive, as the I and the, I might bring up a thing about that, and nequi maximi cometas, and so they maximi the great amount of cometas, which are provisions, neither they, which veniabant, were coming from Italy and Gaul, were able to reach, to come in, Purvenia usually takes an out or an in into the camp. So all up, these people had come to Caesar in friendship. Looks like they'd come to him to support him, but they were not. Neither were these people able to support him with grain, and those who had gone a long way for foraging, they were cut off coming back by the river. And the great amount of provisions which were coming from Italy and Gaul couldn't come, and none of these could come into the camp. Okay, the tempest here at the time of year, autumn, however, moreover, was superlative, difficult, very difficult. Quo, by which neither was there frumenta, that's the grain for the frumentum, in the winter camps in the Hibernus, nor was it much from maturity, it wasn't far from maturity, aberrant away. Now I drew up this thing here on the third passive infinitives that are different in the third declension. You have the T family, so the passive infinitive and the perfect inverti is pretty much different from the rest. Plecto has a plecti as well, and pinso, there are a few different supine versions of it all. And facesso and verto are pretty much only ones that have a passive infinitive, the same as the first person in the perfect. It's not in the download, it's just a thing I put together for myself. Okay, so this was what was going on. It's a difficult time of year, they didn't have grain in the camp, and even though it wasn't very far away from maturity. Ac civitates, in these communities, there's a passive participle there, going with that, so it's plural, comes from inanto, which means emptied, so ex, that inantate means it's been emptied out, so they've been drained, these states have been drained or emptied out of their grain, I'm guessing. Quod because Afrianus paeni, almost omne frumentum, again frumentum's a neuter, so we have this e, male and females take is. Before, this is a preposition which will take an accusative, which before the arrival, and it's split with the genitive, before the arrival of Caesar, it had been convexerated, going to a place, and accusative means to that place. So before the arrival of Caesar, almost all the frumentum had been convexerated to Ilerda. The reliquy, what was remaining, si quid fuerat, if there was anything, Caesar, the normative, in the superior diebus, in the ablative, in the earlier days, the superior days, he had consumpsurated it, he'd consumed it. Not him personally, but all these men. The pecora, the flock animals, herd animals, which Potterat had been able to have been, secundum means second or favourable, a subsidium means an auxiliary, so it would have been maybe a favourable alternative or help to their inopia, which is their lack of resources. Propter, on account of the bellum, again takes the accusative, this preposition, on account of the bellum, the finitime civitates, the neighbouring communities, had rented their pecora, their flocks, herd animals, longius, rather far off, had moved them far away. Qui, those who errant were pabulando or frumandando, these are gerunds. The genitive, it has causa or gratia, are the post-positives or the it's like a postposition, you might want to call them. This is a common construction. Those who, for the sake of pabulando, are frumendating, so those for the sake of foraging or getting grain, had progressi, again the I is for the plural, so those who had gressi means travelling, so they'd travelled out, pros usually forwards, for the sake of getting their fodder maybe, or anything they could get in grains. Hos, those of light armour of Lusitano, these are people who are following this guy, they were peritai, which means they're experienced, iarum regionum, they're experienced in this region. Again, ketratai, that's a type of shield. They consectabanto, they followed them. So Caesar's people had gone out to get grain. They were followed by this light armoured group here of Sertorius, what's that, interior Spain or somewhere. So in English, these people are called the Lusitians, and that's closer Spain, with which Quibus are at proclive trenare flumen. So that's the swim across the river. Proclive can mean sloping or easy, I'm guessing it means here. It comes from an adjective. Again, that would be is if it was male or female. Flumens are neuter. So these people found it easy to swim across the river, quite because their constituto, the habit iorum of these people, omnium, of all of these people, was that without these inflatable skins, which they use, I guess they inflate these bags or and use them to swim across rivers. They did not go out to join the army or go out to battle on their campaigns without these things they used to cross the rivers. Now, did I show a picture of these catratus? That's the kind of shields these people use. At, strong version of but, like said, but the exercitus, the army of Afrianus, was abundant, pretty much the same thing in English, had abundant copia, means or copious amounts, omnium rerum, of all things. So Caesar's army was lacking, it had inopia, and these people had copia. Multum erat, much was frumenta, much of this grain or corn was provisum, foreseen, and it was convectum, that means carried along, in superioribus temporis, in earlier times. And multum, again, much, was comportabator, the passive, from all of his province, from omne provincia. Magna copia, a great amount of pabuli, of fodder or supplies, supertabat, this means available or was supplied. Harum omnium remun facultate, so the facultates of all of these things, the facilities of getting this, or the ability to get all of these things, was sine ullo pericula, without any danger. Although again, it's one of the praenominals, the naughty nine. The pons Ilerdia, so the bridge at Ilerdia, Praebabat, was offering the means or the facility of all of these things without any danger, and the loca transflumen, and the places over the river transflumen were integra loca, loca integra. So these were still untouched or integral, or whatever you want to call it, by which, quo omnino, altogether, Caesar was non poterat adiri. Caesar was not able to go to infringe on these places across the river. 50. Hey, these things, per mensurat, they remained, these aqua, these waters remained for complores dies, for many days. Caesar's a nice author. Conatus est Caesar. Caesar tried, taking the infinitive, to reficere, to repair the pontes, accusative plural, the bridges. So he tries to repair the bridges, said, but nec magnitude, but the magnitude or the size, fluminous, of the river, did nec permitabat. So it was not permitted by the magnitude of the river, be the height of the river, and neither ad ripaam, to the banks, disposa, this means they were placed there or put down there, cohorts adversarium. The cohorts of the adversary, or of the enemy, were placed there, and so the great flooding of the river, the size of the river, and the enemy cohorts placed on the riverbank did not patiabato perfici, did not allow or suffer this to be perfici, to be completed. Quod, it's a precursor or a witch or a neuter, illis prohibere erat facili. So it was easy for that to prohibere, or to stop illis, those people, cum when natura ipsius fluminis, by the nature of the river itself, ablatives take by, with, or from, and in, and by the magnitude of the water. So the nature of the river and the sizable flooding of the waters. Then, quod ex totus river, from both of the river banks in unum and angostum locum, and into one and narrow place. The thing about adjectives in Latin is they take an atque or an and between them. So it's just one place. This locum is taking both these adjectives. So one place which is also narrow. They were yakabantering. They were casting out their teller, their spears, their javelins. So it was easy for the other people to stop him because of by the nature of the river and by the magnitude of the water, and then because of they were throwing their weapons from all the riverbank, Totus River, into one narrow place. Almost done. Atque and erat difficult, and it was difficult. Eodem tempore, in that time, with a rapidissimo flumini, which is a superlative, a very rapid moving river, to perficere. So it was difficulty est, erat actually, taking the infinitive perficere. So difficult it was to complete this opera, these works, in the same time with a very fast moving river, and to avoid the tellers, the vitare, and to avoid the weapons. So they were doing two things at once.